Good evening, everyone. Glad to see you all back here once again for our meeting in English that happens every month at the second Monday. And tonight we're going to have Nancy in a few minutes, and I'm going to be back here after her with tonight's message from the Gospel according to Spiritism, which will be from chapter number 9. Continue the study of chapter number 9, which is Blessed are the Meek and Peace-Loving. That's the title of the chapter. But we're going to be talking about item number 6, which is Affability and Meekness. And we will talk about this message that was written by the spirit Lazarus, or Lazar, as it's in this translation here, written in Paris in 1861. But before we start, I'd like to, we would like to do a prayer for starters, so that we can focus more on with the good spirits and think about God and Jesus, asking them to help us tonight to understand and feel the message within our hearts. So if you want, you can close your eyes, and we can all close our eyes so that we can go deeper inside of ourselves and raising our thoughts, opening our hearts and our minds. We could say, God, our loving Creator, builder of the universe and of our hearts, here we are once again, thanking you for the opportunity of being alive, of gathering together around the message of love that our dear friend Jesus came here to explain and live, to show us that there's a pathway, that there's a good way to be in accordance with these laws of love, of compassion, that brings us close to you. May the good spirits tonight help us understand that this message is for everybody, but most importantly, it is for us who speak, and for us who listen, who hear, so that we can together be one day, when we learn to love one another, be called the disciples of Jesus. May your love embrace us and hold us together, not only now, but for always. So be it. So, as we've been doing for the past few months, we are broadcasting this online as well, so people can watch from their houses. And we have these meetings recorded, so we can always go back and listen to them again. So I welcome everybody that's online. I don't know if there's anyone right now live with us, but let's invite Nancy. She will talk about our daily bread, message 126, 7. Yeah. So Mariana, yours will be the next one. I guess I made a mistake. It will be 128. All right, but I'll fix that later. Nasi.
Good evening, everyone. Okay, as Mackenzie said, the book is Our Daily Bread, and the number of the message is 127 and has a title, The Law of Return. And come out, those who have done good will rise to life, and those who have done evil will rise to be condemned. This is who said is Jesus. It is in John chapter 5, verse 29. In rare passages of the Gospel, the law of reincarnation appears as clearly as this one here. In the lesson that Jesus presents on the resurrection of the condemnation, how would the theologians who are interested in the existence of a burning and eternal hell understand these words? Individuals dedicated to righteousness will find the fountain of life bathing in the waters of corporeal death. Their realizations of the future continue to justifiable ascent directly along with the persevering efforts that they develop on their sanctifying spiritual path. Still, those that are complacent about evil cancel their very own possibility of resurrection in the light. They are obliged to repeat the expiatory course. It is the return to the lesson or to the remedy. No other alternative exists. The law of the return, then, is clearly contained in that synthesis of Jesus. Resurrection is reappearance. The understanding of renovation does not correspond to the theory of eternal sorrows. In the summary and definite sentence, there is no resource to salvation. But by the reference made by Jesus, we observe that divine providence is much richer and magnanimous than it appears. There will be a resurrection for all, except that those who are righteous will have it in a new life, and those that are evil in a new condemnation, as a consequence of their reprehensible behavior. Well, the title comes to the title says the law of return. We know this is a universal law, like other laws, for example, action and reaction. And the law of return is something that God gave to us as a gift. In example, we come to this life, we born as a little beautiful baby, then we grow up and we have our choices. We can do good, we can do bad. It's our choice. We have a free will. Then we grow up, live our lives, we encounter other people, and then one day we passed away. Then we have a chance to talk and see what we did good or not. So then, after talk with the people or the reincarnation department who takes care of us, they will say, oh, okay, Nancy, this thing you did good, this thing you made some mistakes. And then I will ask God to give me another chance. And under His justice, His love, and His mercy with us, He will say, okay, I will give you another chance. So then we reincarnate. But if we think that it is easy like this, I just say, oh, I'm sorry, I did wrong. Can I have another chance? There is a big line waiting to reincarnate here. I have a friend of mine, he used to say it this way: the right place is here, the right time is now. So now it's time to us to think about our lives, to do the best as we can. If we have somebody that we had some conflict or something in the past, the best way is try to reconcile. Try to do your best. Even if the person says, oh, you know what, I don't want to talk with you. That's okay. Even on this way you tried, right? Maybe later this person will think about it and say, you know what, okay, so let's talk again, or something like that. Jesus one time told us that the best way is try to reconcile on this life. He said, while you are walking side by side on the same path with this person, try to do your best. You know, it's always nice if we come and say, hey, I'm sorry, I did wrong. That day I had a bad day. I know I said bad things to you. And, and try to, if it's not possible to be friends again, but at least, to have a neutral situation. And there is a sentence, there is a lot of strong sentences on this thing. And on paragraph 6, it says, they are obliged to repeat the expiatory course. It means we have to come back and we will have again that same situation that we failed in the past. We'll have this chance again to try to do better. The other one, it says, it is the return to the lesson or to the remedy. We have two ways, right? No other alternative exists. There is no other way. If you did something wrong, you will have a chance to fix this. So why not try to do your best now? So then you don't have to come again later and try, to fix it. Because one day we will have to fix it. So let's do it now. And whatever we plant, we are going to reap. There is a verse in the Bible on Galatians that I really like. It says, this, whatever we plant, we are going to reap. And it says, don't judge each day by the harvest you reap, but by the seeds that you plant. So let's pay attention what kind of seeds we are planting. Because before the reward, there is a labor. That's all we can do, right? Always try to do our best. That's what I understood of this law of return. Thank you very much for your attention.
So I'm back, and as I was saying, we are studying chapter number 9 from the Gospel according to Spiritism. This is one of the translations, or one of the covers, and every edition has, of course, I mean, was not written in English, was written in French, so every translation has like a few like minor things here and there, nothing big or major that really changes the meaning, but sometimes some words stay on the past, right? There are some um, there are some words that if we use these days, people will either understand it incorrectly, will not understand it, or some confusion may arise depending on how old you are or how young you are. Some people may not even understand what you're trying to say depending on how the words is. So that's why, when time passes, we adapt things and we try to change and make it as close as possible to what we are currently speaking. I was reading the other day um, a um, a um, a graphic novel which has a story. It's a fictional story, but it deals with real characters. It deals with William Shakespeare, which is the biggest or the most known probably person that ever wrote in the English language. And what is interesting is that when I was reading about it, the words are normal words for us today. But there are some words that he writes it a little different. And I was wondering why he did that. Then I went to read something else about William Shakespeare. And he was, if I'm not wrong, if I'm not mistaken, he was born in the 1500s or so. And people that study the language say that if you were born, or if you were brought back to that time, or before the books or the writings of William Shakespeare appeared, if we were able to understand English today and we were brought back to that time, we would probably not be able to communicate with anybody. We would not be able to understand anyone because the words and the way they spoke were so different that it doesn't really look like what we understand as being English these days. And only after William Shakespeare appeared, because his writings were so popular and whatever he wrote was so say pervasive, entered the lives of people and were like um, became popular, let's say, the language started to grow around what he wrote. And so he created lots of words, and there were words that didn't exist before him, and then everything changed after him. And if we think about it, even if it's not William Shakespeare, if it were not for him, something would have to happen so that we would have one language, or at least one similar close kind of language. If we think about, and people say, for example, that television did this, which is also true. But one other thing that made the language be spread in United States, for example, and to be, for such a big country to have basically only one language, one of the main things that happened was the train, the possibility of messages being able to quickly come from one place to another. Because if we think about it, that's another big problem, right? If we have a group of people that live in a region and they are living only there, and they don't communicate with people that live 200 miles away, they will develop a language. And if we don't have a way to communicate with the other one, we don't know what the other one is speaking. So, and if they never meet each other for say 100 years, language will change. And we can clearly see that, for example, when we talk about, when we think about right here, up here in Quebec, right, which were colonized by the French. And it's a French that was apart from France for a very long time. So it is kind of a different language. The accents are different. Some people say that if you don't like really close and pay attention to, get really close to the person who is speaking, if you speak French in France, you will not be able to understand the French from Quebec. And accents, we can clearly see that that's one of the main things. I mean, if you go to Alabama, if you go down south, we're going to see different accents. My accent, which is one of a person that was not born here, is totally different than the person that was born here, right? Because we have influences. And so why am I saying this? I'm saying this because, sometimes I hear people talking about, problems with translations here and that. And I don't see problems with translations in that superficial sense. What I can understand is that, and sometimes people complain about it, is that, if you want to change the meaning of something, then you might introduce something that changes the meaning. But that, I mean, if it's a person that's a studious person that is studying and is really trying to understand, the person will notice that should not be there, right? So we should only be worried about these minor things for very specific reasons. But this was just an introduction that has nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about. But I wanted to go into this because sometimes I feel like when I'm here talking or speaking in English, and it's not my first language, right? I hear people saying, or I feel, I shouldn't say that I hear, but I feel people that are kind of afraid of speaking, that, people will judge me, or people will, people, and what I think about it is I don't have any issues in speaking, at least not in English, and in Portuguese as well. But I understand the fear of speaking in public. I really understand, because I once was afraid when I was young, or younger, because I'm still young, despite my beard and the whiteness and so on. But I understand that we are afraid of speaking in public sometimes, but we should not be afraid of speaking the language. I mean, it should actually be the other way around. If I am able to speak more than one language, I am privileged, right? So what if the person is judging me because I speak like this or like that? It doesn't really matter. If you go to Jamaica, if you hear a person from Jamaica speaking, you're going to think, if you live here, that the person is speaking broken English, because the accent is so different that you think that he is pronouncing it wrong. But he is not pronouncing it wrong. He's pronouncing it the way they speak in Jamaica or wherever it is, right? So if I am Brazilian, which I am, and I have my accent because I was not born here, it's just, that's why it has a name. It's an accent, and that's it. Right? Of course, we have to be careful with what we are saying, and maybe we can be saying something wrong in terms of changing the meaning of something, but then that's why we have a conversation. If it's wrong, then we fix, and then that's it. So we develop and we grow in this. So I wanted to say this, because it is, if we have the possibility, if we have the capability, and if we are willing to do it, I think it's a wonderful thing. I mean, I was listening this weekend, and I'm sorry for this big introduction here, but I was listening this weekend to this talk, and I didn't watch the whole thing. I didn't grab from the beginning, and in the middle, I had to go out. Then I watched at the end, but I was listening to Vanessa Lancelotti, as Cristiane likes to call her, Vanessa Anceloni. She's from Maryland. Well, she's Brazilian, but she lives in the Maryland, Virginia, D.C., Baltimore area. She actually lives in Virginia right now. But she was talking to people in London in one of these lives that they do. They invited her to talk about Leon Denis, and there was this moment when she was talking, and she was saying at this specific part that he was making like this census, kind of a census, and making us imagine how many people are how many Brazilian are spiritists. And then she goes and finds this number that was in the last census, and she says, "Oh, and how many spiritists are here in the United States?" Then she goes and says, "So, out of these, all these spiritists that are here, how many of these speak English? And out of these, how many speak about Spiritism in public?" So she goes and she shows us that there are so little still of us that do this. And how do we want Spiritism to get to other places if we that live here don't do it? And that was a very interesting way that I never heard her speak about, because I heard her talk about this so many times in so many different ways. But when she put these into numbers and invited us, the ones who were speaking or who were watching her, to think about this and say, what are we doing? And she is not putting shame. No, she's just asking us to reflect. Because, of course, not everybody wants or likes to talk in public. And like I said, it's not for everybody. I know that. But if we have that thing in us, why don't we try it? Maybe it's another avenue. So this all that I'm saying here was this spark that Vanessa like planted in me this week. And as I was thinking, and then this week and this month is this meeting here in English, and I wanted to talk a little bit about this language thing that we are having here. And we started this, I don't even remember how many years ago. I don't know, maybe 12 years ago, and we've been having it every month, at least once a month. In the beginning, it was every 2 months. Then we have it once a month, and that's what we've been doing. And I'm glad that at least we have it once a month. And also to welcome Mariana will be here next month, and she will start this as well. I mean, start as we all start, slowly. If we feel like we want to do it, if we like to do it, we keep doing it. If not, that's fine. That's what I find interesting in us is, everyone decides at one point. Chris, for example, right? How many years she's been working here with us, and she does these small talks like Nancy did here, but she all of a sudden she said, "Oh, well, I'm going to do a big one." And then she came one day and put my name there. And then she came and she does like talks, 40 minutes talk. And I find that to be refreshing for all of us, because, I mean, it shows that we know that we can do something. It doesn't need to be the best of the best, but it shows us that we can do it and we can improve. We can do the best that we can, and that's how it should go, right? So, but closing this big parenthesis here, and this is more to thank you all for really sticking to the plan of doing it in English, of being here and helping us. on this work. I'm going to go to, like I said in the beginning, go to this part of the chapter of chapter 9. Blessed are the meek and the peacemakers, or that Jesus comes and says, blessed are the meek, and the meek are the ones who are not, say, angry or not like impulsive. The meek are the ones who come and try to calmly solve the problems and try to bring peace into the place that they go to. So these are the meek, and the peacemakers are those who are not like wolves that are like aggressive, but are more like sheep, or more like the ones who go along with everybody else and try to mix well with the others instead of causing trouble. So these are the meek and the peacemakers. So that's the whole chapter that talks about. Flavio was here last month and talked about insults and violence, and I'm going to go to the affability and mildness, which is basically the same idea. The person who is affable is a person that doesn't bring that angry face when they're speaking, or it's when you talk to the person, you like feel relaxed with the person talks softly, the person talks calmly to us. And mildness, the same idea. But in English, what I find interesting is that when I hear the word mild, which relates directly to this, it's more connected to food, right? So when I go eat something, so person says, "Oh, do you want this to be hot?" And say, "No, mild," or "No hot at all." So mild is something that's not too much, not too little. It's right there in between. Oh, can you make it milder? So less, even less. Can you take it all out? So a person that's mild is a person that is not overly, but it's not also without. It has like a good level of the person knows a little how to interact without causing too much problem, too much trouble with the other. So that's the title of the item here: affability and mildness. And Lazarus, which I said, right, he wrote this message in Paris in 1861. He starts by saying this, and I'm going to read a couple of sentences here because I find it very interesting. Just like Nancy did in her talk here, she grabbed a few sentences from the Law of Return and read it for us. When he says, benevolence towards one's fellow creatures, which is the result of loving your neighbor, manifests itself in the form of affability and mildness. So if we want to be benevolent, if we want to be agreeable to someone, he is saying that this benevolence is shown by the way we treat the other person. And this is shown in being affable, in having affability, in being mild towards the other one. So when we go talk to someone, we talk in a soft voice, or in a voice that is not aggressive, in a voice that is not pounding, in a voice that is not too loud or too shrieking. We try to talk normally. However, and that's the next word that he uses here. However, it is very interesting the way in what he points out here, because we all know, and or we felt this before. Maybe some people felt from us, is that sometimes a person that's really mild, that's affable, that's calm all the time, that when she speaks or when he speaks, we look at the person and something may pop up in our minds and say, that person is trying to not to show exactly who she or he is. That's kind of the avenue that he goes here in this message. He asks us to think about, and that's how he says. However, it is not always a good thing to trust in appearance, to trust on the mask that we put. And that's my personal question for tonight. When I was reading and thinking about this message, and I was putting it online to invite people to come watch and say that we were going to broadcast it, I was thinking about this question, or these next sentences that he is going to say here. And I was thinking, why do we want to be mild and to be affable? Why do we put, or why do we want to put this mask of mildness and affability? And that's a question for each one of us, for me, for every single one of us. Why do we do it? As with everything, we have to ask ourselves, why are we doing it? And then we might come up with an answer. But that needs to be as truthful as possible, not to show anyone, but for me to understand why I'm doing that. So, for example, I'm going to go out and I'm going to drink, or I'm going to dance, or why am I doing it? Why? Oh, it's just for this or just for that. Every one of us will have an answer to that, and we have to try to understand why. Right? So if I'm going to write something, why am I writing that? I'm going to write something to Chris. Why am I going to write this to Chris? What is my intention in doing it? And there are things that might be very simple and there's no need for deep thoughts, but things that deal with who we are should be the things that we should stop and think about it with a little more care, because that defines what we are going to receive in the future. Just like Nancy said here. She said, I think you read it from the Old Testament or something. You said, we should not worry about the harvest. We should worry about what we are sowing. I don't know if it's in the message or you got it from somewhere, but that's what she said from the Bible. Yeah. So she said, we should not worry about what we're going to get later on, but what we are planting right now. Because what we are getting is determined by what we are planting. So if I'm worrying about what I'm getting, it's because I kind of know what I'm planting. So my question to myself when I read this was, why am I putting the mask of mildness and of affability if I am not? And that made me think, because I hear quite often that we should be who we are all the time. And I agree with that to a certain point. See, imagine a person that discovered that person is really angry all the time. She or he is a person that gets frustrated very, very often. And with that frustration, for him or for her to throw it out is to scream and yell at people. What will happen to a person that does not put a mild face or an affable mask on top of that person? How can I change if I don't put something on top of me to control that? So what is to be myself all the time? What does that mean? Is to mean that when I'm angry, I should scream and yell at the other person? Is that what that means? Or no? To me, that's not what that means. But apparently, when we do those things, say I came here and Dora came to me and stepped on my toe, and I yelled at her and screamed at her and threw her out. And she comes and complains to Chris that I was very angry at her, that I did this and I did that. And I'm going to say, oh, but I'm doing exactly what they are telling me to do. I am being myself. How am I supposed to change to a better person if I, at that moment, even if I am angry, I don't do it? And I say, I'm sorry, and I leave instead of doing what I really wanted to do. So to me, it's kind of an inconsistency to say that we should be what we are all the time. And that's where my question comes. And that question, as I said, is a question to myself that I struggle with, is why do I put, or why should I put, like he's saying here, this mask of affability and mildness? What do I want to accomplish with being educated, as he says, and hiding this part of me that is outrageous, that is bad, judging myself? Do I want to accomplish what? What do I want to get, or where do I want to get? Do I want to, and here's the thought behind it. What do I want to get? Do I want to be mild and affable and not say anything because I'm planning something behind to get to the other person in a different way without the other person knowing that I want? Like hiding the truth so that I can do something that the other person will not think it was me? Or I'm hiding it because I want to become what I'm showing. These are two different approaches to the same mask. That's why I said we have to think why we are doing what we are doing. Because some of us, I'd say, I could say all of us in one point, we did that. We put a mask to hide who we are because I don't know what the other person, I don't want the other person to know who I am, because I might use who I am to get something from the person. As we see it all the time with these scams that call you with, oh, I need your phone number to do this, or I need your, oh, I know that you're in need, why don't you call this number to do this? And you call, and then you get, they take money out of you, they steal your information. But what if I know that I'm angry, I know that I am a violent person, or I know that I am this or that, but I don't want to be it anymore? And for me, one of the ways for me not to be it anymore is to really put the effort of being affable and mild and not showing that I am angry. Maybe I will explode at one point, and people will get scared or get like afraid of what I'm capable of doing. But I'm going to say, at least for 5 years or 5 months, or I was able not to explode because I was trying really hard not to. These are two completely different ideas of wearing the same mask. Is why am I doing it? I think that for us to reach a certain point, to reach a certain level, we have to practice to get to that level in whatever we are doing. If I want to be a great nurse, right, I'm going to have to study. I'm going to have to lose hours of sleep. I'm going to have to, in whatever profession, if I want to be a good cook, or it doesn't matter. There's so many, to be good cooks, there are so many programs on the TV that talk about it, and people when talk about, oh, I do this and I go out and buy this and I do this, and they like spend hours and hours and hours cooking, and that's practice. So for me to not, or to become more affable, what should I be doing? Even if I am not affable, I should be practicing affability. To me, that's what it is. And some people say, oh, you're a hypocrite because you're not. I don't see it that way. I'm sorry, I don't see it that way. Unless if you are really being a hypocrite. And what is to me being a hypocrite is that you know that you are not. You know that you don't want to change, but you want people to believe that you want to change so that you can still be who you are. That's being hypocrite. But if you sincerely want to change, but from time to time you fall because you are not able to keep up with the standards, that's not being a hypocrite. That's failing on a test. That's just failing on a test. Then you go and study once more and practice more to get to that point. So when he thinks about this right at the beginning, he asks, and he says, he doesn't ask, he says, the world is full of such people with a smile on their lips, but poison in their hearts. And that's the question that we have to ask, not about the other person. Because that's one of the other main problems that I find in me, and I kind of assume that maybe I'm not the worst person in the world, but I'm really sure that I'm not the best person in the world. So what I assume is that if I find it in myself, I know that I can't say most people, but I can say a lot of people have the same problems as I do, which is have the heart full of poison, because we still are in this level that we have to get rid of bad stuff that we have on inside. And it is hard to change. So when he says that the world is full of such people, and I read this, I tend to believe that when I read this, or I shouldn't say I tend to believe, I feel when I read it for the first time that when I read the world is full of people, I think about other people. I think about you. But usually, I don't think about me. Because I'm reading and full of such people, I say, oh, such people. I am not such people. But when Chris is reading this book and she thinks, oh, the world is full of such people, I am included in such people on her view and on your view. So I am one of these people. So when I'm reading this, I should be thinking, am I one of these? And not thinking about, are you one of these? Should be thinking about myself. Am I one of these people that have a smile on their lips but are full of poison in my heart? Am I one of these? And I have to think about it, because no one can say that, can tell me that better than myself. Or no one should be able to tell it better than myself. Although sometimes we create an illusion, and then we don't even know ourselves as well as some people that know us. And then he continues and he says, they are mild, they are calm, as long as nothing irritates them, but they bite at the least provocation. And this is in italics to really catch our eye, to really stand out so that we can think about it. They are, and that's the main problem. He says they, but who is they? To me, when I'm reading, they are they. But to you, they is me as well. So it's actually me and everyone else. But I'm not to be worried about anyone else. It's their lives. It's your lives. I should be worried about myself. So I should be asking myself, are we mild as long as nothing irritates me and I bite at the least provocation? Question mark. Then I should be worried. Because that's what the message is about. The message is not about the others, it's about myself. Why am I not being affable if I'm not being affable? But also, why am I being affable if I am being affable? What's behind it? Because it's not what's on the surface that matters the most. It's what down below that matters the most. And what am I doing it for? What am I getting out of it for myself? For my personal improvement. So, as I always say here, to read these messages out loud here and tell you something, and tell, here in talking out loud is something, and it is interesting, and I like to hear people talk. But when we read, if we pay attention, we can take so much more. And that was a lesson that I was reminded recently by Chris. When a few months ago, when she started talking here, she told that to me, that it is so interesting to be there sitting and listening to other people. But when we have to sit down and study and read about it, to prepare something to talk, it's so, I don't remember the words. I'm not going to say the words that she said, of course, but I have the same feeling. It is so powerful because it is as if the words are speaking to me, not to the others. And then it's like as if I'm taking responsibility of what I'm reading here. Because it's not just because if it's the words that I'm going to say to other people, but it's words that need to mean something to me. So being or using these words, affable, mildness, meekness, being peacemaker, being a peacemaker, or any of these ideas here on this chapter, or any other chapter for that matter, it is important that I think about them for me. How am I using these teachings? What kinds of masks I'm putting on me, and why am I putting these masks over me? More important than the masks themselves is why I'm using these masks. What's the intention behind it? Because the intention is kind of the seed that I'm planting. And I'm going to harvest. I'm going to have to go there, and then if I'm planting grapes, I'm going to harvest grapes. I'm not going to get watermelons or no. It's grapes, I'm going to get grapes. So, what am I planting when I'm choosing to use the mask of affability? I just want to look as if I am the best person, just for people to like respect me, but on the behind, I am totally different person. When I wake up, when I die, or when I'm only with myself, that is what I'm gonna be. I'm not gonna be my mask. By using or wearing a mask, I don't become that mask just because I'm using it. I become that if I want to become that. If I practice to become that. If my intention is actually that. Sometimes even without intention. But then I would not have to have a bad intention. I could be like, oh, I don't know why I'm doing, but I'm doing. Then I learn. Then I don't go back. There's a story for us to finish that I like that says that one day this woman, she hated her mother-in-law, and they lived together. And she just couldn't withstand that woman. She wanted to kill her at all costs, and this was a long time ago. And then she would complain and complain and complain. She went to talk to her pastor, and then her pastor said, um, "You know what you can do? I know what you can do. You don't kill her. You don't kill her like at once. You don't get a knife or whatever and kill her. No, you kill her slowly. But for you to do that, you will have to gain her trust. And to gain her trust, you'll have to treat her well so that you can be doing whatever you need to do to get her to die. Otherwise, she will never let you get close to her. So you start day by day, even if you don't want to, say good morning. If she treats you bad, you say, oh, okay, then I'm leaving, but I'll come back later. And then you start with these small things. But I'm going to give you the poison. Here it is. And he gives her a bottle with this powder, very fine powder inside. And he says, oh, you put just a little bit. You grab just a little bit and put in her coffee. Every time you go there and talk to her and you bring her the coffee, and then you put just a little bit. And then after a time, and I'm not sure exactly how long it will be, she will die. And then that's what she starts doing. Every day she goes there, talks to her. And at first, the mother-in-law like keeps screaming at her and treats her badly, but she has that intent of killing her. And what is the people say that one of the best fuels for something is if you want revenge, or if you want, like, it's hatred is the best fuel for stuff. So that's what apparently she has inside of her. But then time passes, and then she keeps doing it, and then all of a sudden the lady starts like to treat her better with time. But she still has that thing inside of her. No, she's just faking. So every time she puts a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. Then years pass. Then the lady starts to get very, very sick. And then one day when she comes to her, and then she says, she comes to talk to her, and the lady comes to her, and she's, oh, I'm very sick, and I don't know what's happening to me. I think I'm gonna die, and I can't. And but I want to apologize to you, because I mean, I treated you badly for such a long time, and then you decided to not to treat me badly. And it took me a while to realize that why was I doing that. And then all of a sudden you were treating me well and treating me well all the time, and you always brought me something. You always brought me something. And now I just want to apologize for all those years and thank you so much for everything that you've been doing to me. And then the girl, or it was not a girl anymore, she starts crying like crazy. Oh my God, what did I do? I'm killing this. I killed the woman. I killed her. So she desperately goes to the pastor. And she says, oh, pastor, I did this terrible thing. You gave me this poison to kill my mother-in-law. And he says, and what's happening? And he said, oh, she is dying, and she's suffering because of me. And he says, because of you? Yeah, because of me. No. What did you do? So I gave her that powder and everything that you gave me because I wanted to kill her so much. And said, oh no, if she is dying, which I don't believe, it's because she is old. Because that thing is sugar. I gave you sugar. Oh, but she loves me so much, so the sugar did that. No, you did that. You changed. You put the mask of mildness and of affability in you, and you acted towards that, and you saw how much that changed the other person, not because you wanted the other person to change, but because of the power of doing the right thing. Why do we want to put the mask of affability? It might be because we want to do a bad thing. So in that sense, even in that sense, sometimes it's worth it. But if we do it because we want to change, it's even more powerful. So it is up to us to choose how and who we want to be. Not to be the fake person that shows something on the outside and it's not that same on the outside. But also not to be violent on the inside and be violent on the outside, because it doesn't bring any good to anybody. So if I'm still violent on the inside, let's try not to be. Let's try to be more affable, less violent. Let's try to be milder and less aggressive, but knowing how or why I want to be less, so that I'm not hated not only by the others, but mainly that I'm not hated by myself, that didn't want to change. There are more sentences here in this very small short passage, three paragraphs, less than a page, that is worth reading. So I invite everyone to read this message. And there are two messages that I love and that I always remember from this book, The Gospel According to Spiritism. This one and the next one are two messages that always come to mind when I think about the Gospel According to Spiritism. Is affability and mildness, and the next one, which we're going to talk about next month, which is patience. So be patient. Next month, we'll be back to talk a little bit more about the Gospel according to Spiritism in English. And with that, we finish tonight's meeting. I'd like to thank everyone for being here. We're still not having the passes, so I'm just going to go and finish our meeting for tonight. I heard that you guys were talking a little bit before we started about the sweets. Dora even came to offer me a piece of hers. Just a little, okay, but it's good. Thank you, Dora. You're like being so kind. It's so nice. So we are doing this because, of course, we all know, but let's remind everyone that because we are closed most of the time here in the center, the only meeting that's really happening here is this one here on Monday nights and one on Thursday, but the Thursday one is just for internal. It's not open to the public. So for us to be able to pay the rent, pay everything, we need to we are doing in Christiane, Nancy, Sheila's, they're doing, and the girls too, or we're doing something to sell, and then for us to get some dividends for the group, so that we can pay the bills, pay to have internet, for example, for people to watch us, and pay the rent and everything else. So if you want, you can just go to our Facebook page. Just search there, Cantinho de Luz. You'll find the sweets there, and you can order online. And Cris will be very happy to make the broa. It's kind of hard to create a word for broa in English, huh? Corn muffin, yeah. It's not the same as muffin here, but yeah, it's close enough, yeah. Corn and cheese, or corn cake, corn muffin. It's something like in between, but it's a good name. It's a good analogy, let's say, so people can understand it. Just like, cheese balls, right? Cheese balls. It's kind of weird, but it is, right? Pãozinho de queijo. Yeah, and so and we are having all the meetings still online. And next week, we go back to our regular meetings in Portuguese. Mariana will be here. Who is going to do the lecture? I think it's Nancy, maybe. I don't know. I put the names there. You can check later. I can't remember. Too many names in my brain. And this Saturday, we're going to have this friend of ours that lives in Florida. She's going to talk to us about free will. So we'll have a good talk with her about free will on Saturday night in Portuguese, but we'll be there. And with that, let's do our final prayer so we can all go back home safe and sound, and thankful to God and to Jesus and to our dear friends from the spiritual world that are always surrounding us, helping us think about our own actions, and inviting us to change for the best and to do the best that we can to put into practice what we've been listening, reading, studying, and also preaching. So we would like to thank God, thank Jesus, and thank these friends for sticking to us and being always with us. And may these blessings be with us, be with our friends, and may these blessings also reach our family, our friends that are not here with us, so that they can also enjoy this message that surrounds our hearts and our minds and clear our thoughts, so that we can be ever and ever closer to the real good in the world. May we all go back in peace to our homes, and may we all be back here at one point to continue our studies and our reflections. May God bless us all. So be it. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone online that were here. I hope it made sense to you all. And we'll see you soon.
Dona tá calminha hoje, né? Foi um açúcar. Meu porco. Tá vendo só, Dora? O docinho já tá que nem eu. Docinho faz a vida da gente. Eu acabei de comer, eu comi um chocolate cheio de chocolate, eu trouxe uma partinha. Não, mas não é.